I am here, early birds. I don't have my glasses, and I do need my glasses. I had to get my coffee, and I have my coffee, and I have my makeup, and I showered, but my hair doesn't look really that great. Oh, here. This is Dr. Annette Feravich, and I am a little bit late, but I am so prepared, I think. Watch. Stumble, stumble, what? Day 179 of the classroom. This is our third day on. You know, we are 3 days on, 4 days off. So we're about ready to get rolling into our 4 days off. And boy, early birds, do you have a lot to do on your 4 days off. You have a lot to think about. I was talking to my son last night, and we were talking about the education system and about how necessary it is to actually do the assigned work. That just looking things up online, it does help to find out things about them, but it doesn't help you with things like writing and communicating. And in fact, I find that the phone really also has little to do with writing and communicating, especially with all the, it's hard to say, I was going to say, especially with all the emojis that can help you express yourself, and especially with the way that people don't care about grammar in their text. And in fact, we've lost the art of cursive, and we lost it in the classroom as well. I never did a cursive lesson either, did I? Before we started our writing series, and that's only because I don't have my write on board like I did before. And I actually am very disappointed about that. Anyway, so we are continuing on, not with that last thought, but with this class, which is our writing class. And I was going to say, I would have had the cursive one done, but it's important. There we are. But it's important for us to make sure that we are in some ways pushing ourselves to write. As you know, a lot of this you can put together online. It just depends on how motivated your parents are, or how motivated you are to get these things done in a way that you would be able to express yourself, communicate, to get a job. But it's so hard to say, isn't it? I mean, if I'm being maligned and I'm a willing worker, right, in my field, not to go slop, farm animals, these farm animals, don't slop them. Anyway, but a lot of this I got from this 3-volume library, and it's called Volume Library is what it's called. It was really weird. I kept saying, who's the publisher? And he's like, you're just difficult. Why are you so conflicting? Like, why is that so obscure? It seems so weird. And it is a little weird. It could be very much have been a certain political goal to, I don't know. I worry that if you're able to fool people in one area, you can fool them in all kinds of areas. Why wouldn't you? You can create an entire fantasy and then have people look at you and go, why are you still in Playland? Why are you in Pretendville? Where's Pretendville? Okay, let's move on. I'm looking for my lotions. Oh my gosh, I am scarce on lotions. That is faux show. And I'm just thinking, I gotta write that down. All right, let's get going. So we are writing, and we have been going, by the way. We've been moving along. We've been talking about writing, and texting doesn't allow for cursive, so we gave up cursive writing, another way, a beautiful way, a way to really express yourself in a beautiful way. Technology is like, what do you need a beautiful way to express yourself for? All you need are the words. Okay, so let's take a look at, is she prepared? Does she have, ta-da! Oh, except for it's not on the right slide. Oh, and that doesn't help me out one single bit. But this does. This is what we're talking about. Let's keep going back, as I've said. And then we begin to create this habit of making sure that we are always getting focused on our thesis statement, right? Okay, so this is not the right slide, but I do have the... Oops, redo that, baby. Are we there? Oops, turned it off. So I did work on, although I'm not going to write a report, I am going to show you, like I did the writing assignment, right? The creative writing assignment and the story. So I did that. I'm not going to write a report. I'm going right back to the very beginning here. So this is our schedule for today. And here is our schedule again, Bookless Classroom. We're going to do the Bookless Classroom until we are done with our book, The War to End All Wars, World War I. Can you see that? Yeah, you can. Okay, so we're going to continue the Bookless Classroom probably through next week. All right? It's really interesting to me as well, because I was reading the online material in order to prepare for World War I. And so I've been trying to prepare for World War I for a while. I got some of those teachers paid teachers downloads a while ago. But it was interesting to me because the stuff that I had online, that I read online, actually seems to duplicate what I saw in this book. So, and it could, the Library of Congress could easily be putting together websites that include what they've already put together in textbooks. And it seems like websites are doing that. But this certainly is like off the scales, way better introduction to this. I think, a book in my hand. But everybody's different. That doesn't mean that everybody needs a book in their hand, right? But what we do need is we do need teachers who are really charismatic enough to be able to convey, to communicate, to convey the message that they want to get out in an entertaining enough way or inspiring enough way that you actually try out the work. So back to the beginning, 4 days off. You've got a lot to do on these 4 days off if you really want to start thinking, early birds, about writing a report. And boy, I really think I made it easy. I remember when I was in school, because I was, pretty smart. If to get a Ph.D, you have to be pretty smart. So I was pretty smart in school. And I remember that the teacher went too slow for me. Right? I was like, I already know what you're going to say. 5 paragraphs. Got it. I need to write my introduction. 3 items I have to get. Got it. Oh my gosh, my brain is pounding with the way that you keep pounding the same message home. This is an early bird class. We really are stretching the youngsters. We had an ABC video on there, right? We really are trying to encourage youngsters to do things that they probably wouldn't. I can't imagine. This is the reason why I try and hit this point home. If I were learning online when I was little, I can't imagine making the decision to write a report. But maybe I would have. I don't know. I just would have been like, yeah, got it. Next thing. No, you have to do it. I get that many of you do understand now. If you're in 5th and 6th grade, you clearly understand what I'm talking about when I'm saying now for the 3rd or 4th or 5th time, 5-paragraph outline, right? But there are other things that are so important, like getting the skill to write a thesis statement. Even for my dissertation, I had a 1-sentence thesis statement. My dissertation was shorter than most. It was about 100 pages, but and that included references. But my master's was actually a little bit longer than that. Okay, just to make sure that you guys are if you're checking up on me, and I know some of you are. Hey, listen, let me tell you something. Anyway, as I said, I was smart and I was able to get it. So even for you that think that you can get it, you still need practice in writing thesis statements. I did. That was one thing I learned I needed practice writing thesis statements. I'm like, they could be 2. All right. If you want them 1, I'm going to put a colon. And I remember my English teacher's like, that's 2 sentences. Just because you connected them with a colon. Oh, her name was Miss Werner. And she was so mad at me. She would get so mad at me. Rightfully so. Anyway, because I was trying to get away with something. I'm like, no, are you the boss of me? You can't tell me thesis statements are only 1 sentence every time. Oh, I think an English teacher can tell you that, student. Anyway, and what I'm telling you is this, is that you do need to practice it. And that was actually what I learned, was that I had to practice writing thesis statements. I really did. And then my thesis statements basically were like, all right, then I'm just going to list things. If you guys say it has to be so formal, then here's a formal list. Here's my thesis. Today, I'm going to talk about this, and this. But that didn't last very long because I'm too creative and I wouldn't turn in something like that. So anyway, but the lesson was I needed practice writing a thesis statement. Okay? Now let's take a look at this while I go find my glasses. Not that. And I'll be right back. Oh, dear goodness gracious. Even when you click on what you want to, this little tragedy still ends up happening. Grabbing something else. Okay, so, and let's, just because I'm going to be, I don't know how long I'm going to be gone for, just a second probably, but let's listen to some music. poets are doing behind closed doors. Playing their musical instruments. All right, early birds. What does that say? That is saying that we are talking about goals. When we're talking about a thesis statement, we're saying, what's your goal in this paper? When we were talking about the podcast, when I put this up here, we are talking about what was our goal for this lesson. And this was the first time, if you remember, as it says there, that we were looking at a bigger lesson, right? So a smaller paper, but more than a paragraph, right? At least a few paragraphs when we were talking about doing our Michigan paper. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a paper. What if it was a stand-up oral report, right? I always liked oral reports because it took a lot of time to write everything down, didn't it? But it doesn't take a lot of time to have just exactly what it's showing right there, a card, a single card. Or as we have here, and let's take a look at our spider for a minute. A single card, or as we have here, a page, right? And then we've got room there for our 3 paragraphs. 1, 2, 3. The only thing we really don't have there is we don't have a place for our introduction and our conclusion, right? That's what we don't have there. But the rest of it is right there for us. So 1 sheet of paper. There are many ways you can start organizing your paper. And maybe this is exactly where you decide to start, right? Maybe you aren't the person who starts with a spider diagram, right? Maybe you're not that person. If it's a big paper, I will always start with the spider diagram. And I will probably always save that spider diagram as well. I will not look at it much after the first, after I get my references and the first time I start writing. I don't look at it very much after I really get my ideas started on paper. Because it is, like I said, it could be a mess. It doesn't ever look as nice as this looks, right? So I don't usually refer to it, but sometimes I do. Sometimes after I'm going on, because remember, this doesn't even have my thesis statement on it. So it's not like I have to refer to my spider diagram. We edit as we're writing, depending on how big our paper is, all right? If we have a 5-paragraph research report, we probably only have to edit it 1 time. That's it, right? After we've got these kinds of things already set, once we get writing our 5 paragraphs, our ideas are already on all kinds of paper. And remember, they're not on scrap paper. They're not on little 4x4 napkins. Actually, I think they're 3.5 by 3.5 from my studies. All right, so we've got our major ideas for our Michigan paper: facts, lifestyle, and natural resources. We have our minor ideas for facts, state facts, and history. And we've even got some detail there too, like when did they join the Union? What about Detroit? Stuff like that. Now I will show you though that those ideas, as I started getting them more, so these were all my ideas to fill in my spider map, right? My spider diagram or my spider map. But when I really started getting my ideas on paper, I began to edit. So this is so you may start editing things like your spider diagram. When you get to paper, you may begin to edit things like the order. I think that this is where I have the order edited that I changed. Oh no. Here's where we start editing, right? Okay, but I also, did I edit my thesis statement? I actually think I did in one of the places. There it is. There's the edit of my thesis statement, right? So if you see, there's my thesis statement shorter. There's my thesis statement longer. There are my major points, right? Starting with facts, then lifestyle, and then natural resources. Those are the way that I put them together on my spider diagram. That's the way I was thinking about it in my head. But then I was like, yeah, no, I don't think so. I think what I need to have is life or natural resources being a major part of my thesis. So I think I made it, I think that's what I changed there. Let me see here. So what did I say there? I have to look at it. Michigan, surrounded by the Great Lakes, is a unique state. So that's what I put in there. With beautiful beaches, stately universities, a rich history, and the only state in the Union with an upper peninsula. I needed to mention the Great Lakes because I could have said the only state in the Union surrounded by Great Lakes. I could have said that, right? But because I didn't have the Great Lakes in there. So this is what we do. But especially early birds, let me tell you something that is a great gift that you have right now, and that is time. I'm reading God is Red right over here. Seems the American Indians don't appreciate a sense of time. That comes from that. Anyway, now I totally lost my point. Oh, what you have is time. And what that means is, and that sort of is a little blessing, by working at home on your studies, you have more time. You have the exact amount of time. If you're a quick student, you could be done with this and already writing, right? So, put it on pause, I'll start writing. Then you start listening, you're like, oh, I didn't think to write a thesis statement, right? So these are the things, and I'm gonna tell you, it's not just one of those throwaway things. It keeps your mind focused. This is one of the things that we don't do, and why so many people run around and say, I need Adderall, I have ADHD. No, you don't. You need a therapist to get you off of your drugs. Anyway, no, it's a sad thing is what it is, right? So, but when you are working at your own pace and you find your own motivation, which actually also is another thing. Learning really is a private thing. There really is no reason to have all of your learning displayed all over a classroom just because we can only afford a single teacher. You know, I mean, we pay for our doctors. He doesn't give us single care, right? We pay for our teachers. They try and give us single care. Now this is a great way to really get individual care and also find ways that you are actually motivated to work, right? To get some, and this isn't work if you enjoy it. If you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to write about the Sioux Indians. And by the way, Travis, they're the Sioux Indians, not the Suez. It's the Suez Canal. It's the Sioux Indians. I was like, that doesn't sound right. I know how it's spelled. S-I-O-U-X. It's Sioux. I think it is, but it's also Sault Ste. Marie, and that's spelled, S-A-U-L-T-E. What is going on? And then, by the way, this is part of Bookless classroom. I looked for the Indians, right? Oh, I've got that coming up here. So this is the thing that gets us so interested in. Are you interested? Find the interesting thing that you want to talk about for your 5 paragraphs. I could talk about the beaches, which would be something somebody would want to talk about. But look at what I talked about instead, what I like to talk about. And what I found out was that I was like looking for the Huron Indians. I thought that there was a tribe called Huron, that there was a tribe called Superior. No, those are the settlers' names that we gave the Great Lakes. They were actually, and they were Indians, but they weren't the Huron Indians. They were the Wyandot Indians. I didn't look up the other Great Lakes. I just looked up that one. Because here's the thing. I'm not writing the reports. I'm here to get moving on teaching you how to do this, right? I wanted to show you a creative writing assignment, right? And that always takes courage to do. Creative writing always takes courage. Nobody is usually asking you to write a creative story. They're teaching you about form and organization in your writing, right? So I was like, all right, that's going to be part of my report. And then maybe I'll go into Wyandot Indians. I'm not writing a report. And so I got back to teaching, which is what I do. I teach, right? And right now, what I'm teaching you is the importance of editing what you are doing and then having time to edit what you are doing. And because we're going to have to figure this system out, right? I said, when I started thinking about this idea, kids have to be graded on papers, right? So parents, you have to be in tune with the assignment enough with the classroom in order to be the grader of the papers. I couldn't do that. That would be the one thing. But it's absolutely necessary to get feedback. We wouldn't even have to call it grading of the papers. We would call it, critical feedback, honest feedback. That's probably a better way to put it, not critical. Calling it honest feedback. We need somebody who can give us honest feedback, right? And honest feedback doesn't mean, hurt your feelings. No. Honest feedback means that I can trust the person giving me the feedback, right? It's truth, right? It's truth. And that's sometimes why I always say critical feedback, right? No, it's really honest feedback from a truthful source, from a knowing source, a source that knows, right? So somebody could say, that's my honest feedback, you suck. Not good words for early birds. But they could say that, right? They could say, that's honest feedback. But no, that's not honest feedback. What I'm talking about honest feedback to be is really knowing the kind of feedback that will help you improve. That's what I mean, right? So we do need a place in the system for that, for somebody who knows how to give honest feedback. And that might be, upper classmen's jobs to do. So maybe there are mediators, mentors, whatever you would call them, that you would be able to, in your community, turn your work into, and this person would be trained on how to give you good quality, honest feedback, right? So these are things that definitely have to be worked into the system. I'm not saying, but this is a long time coming. We have to realize that where our money is best spent. We really do have to realize where our money is best spent. And and children were not getting the quality education because it just wasn't a standard education. It was whatever, footloose and fancy free teacher you had going on in front of your class. And lucky you, I'm not so footloose and fancy free. So there's our title. There is our new thesis statement. And there is our edited order. All right? So we do need to think about how we are going to organize the things that we have in our report. I think what I'm going to do is I've got this right over here. So today we are sort of starting on the outline. I'm going to go back to our information. But in the process of collecting your evidence, getting your research ready for your paper, and any paper you do, you need research for, right? Not the same kind of research, but even a book report. What'd you do? What was your research for a book report? Your research was you read the book. It was the book, right? Now that's a whole different area of writing, but still you are doing your research and you're deciding how to order your book report, right? When you get research online from different sources, you want those to be quality sources. Just like if you have somebody correct your paper, you want that to be a quality paper corrector, right? Okay, so boy, am I getting a lot of thoughts in here. I was like, you go, Dr. Feravich, you go. And now I'm like, where am I going? It's the order where I was, right? We still are thinking about this. So always thinking book reports, research that's using credible resources, which is actually the slide I started with over here at the very beginning, and we'll get to at the very end. All right? So quality sources that you're getting. And as you're collecting those sources, you are thinking about what is the order. Why did I change the order of this? Why did I change the order of my major points? I changed the order of my major points because I went back to my thesis statement, and my thesis statement is supposed to be about really the natural resources. That's what I wanted to talk about. Like I said, somebody else may really want to talk about the lifestyle and the beaches, right? And the entertainment, university campuses, all kinds of things, all kinds of notes that I had on my spider map, right? But all of those notes that I collected on Michigan on my spider map there, I'm not going to really put in a 5-paragraph report, right? I'm probably not going to talk about the universities, but I might have a sentence about the universities underneath one of those topics, right? Like Detroit. And there I talk about the history of Detroit. Why am I talking about the history of Detroit there, right? And then talking about Detroit over there and the lifestyle. I got to see where my finger is to see if I've got it right. Oh, wait, no. They're in the lifestyle, right? Why would I talk about it here and there? So that's how the spider map can sometimes end up getting chaotic and a little misleading. I'm not going by the spider map anymore because I'm only writing a 5-paragraph report. All right? Now, I also wanted to show you, where are we on time? There we go. I also wanted to show you, so there I've got my topic sentences. Michigan was part of the Northwest Territory in 1800, the Indiana Territory in 1805, and became the 28th state in the United States in 1837. So that's my topic sentence for the facts. And I think that that's a great way then to get out our general facts about things. Our state bird, right, is I think we could do that as we list these facts here. Okay? We are thinking as we get more and more on paper, we are thinking about the way that we want to organize this report. All right, that was the slide over here. Do you want to organize your report chronologically? That's according to time. This happened first, history. So maybe there is some things, but then what's next after you have the history? What comes next in time? Right? If you're doing a state report. So the most to least important, or the least to most interesting, important, impactful, costly, complex. You might have, for example, ideas that are less complex and then build to more and more complex ideas. Complex ideas are bigger ideas. So you might start with smaller ideas that your reader could understand, and that's how they build on bigger ideas, right? I could have done lifestyle, and thinking about beaches is easier to understand than natural resources are. So if I were to and the facts are the easiest to understand. State bird, state flower. That's what we start with in usually 4th grade when we do our state reports, 3rd or 4th grade. Okay, so those are the easiest facts. So maybe you're going to go from easiest for your reader to understand to hardest or more complex for your reader to understand. If you do that, early birds, you might want to put lifestyle second, because the next easy thing to understand would probably be our lakes and our beaches. And then you could talk about its fresh water compared to salt water, and therefore we need to preserve our natural resources. And that gets on to paragraph number 3. And did you see we also had a transition? Did you see that we also had that transition? So it was, and therefore, let me see here where I've got this. There we go. Remember, in this 5-paragraph outline that we looked at, we do want to think about our transitions there, right? So there's our, right there, it says topic sentence. It says example 1 and an explanation, example 2 and an explanation, and then our transition. My transition statement was, to natural resources was, and therefore we want to make sure that we take care of all of our natural resources. And then we start our topic sentence for paragraph number 3. So that puts our topics in least complex, facts, then to more complex, lifestyles, to most complex, natural resources. So do you see, early birds, how we are always trying to think about how are we going to order our reports as we collect data. Now I've got more data here, and that's why I thought of that new order. And by the way, early birds, I also had time. We've been on here for 45 minutes on day 179 of the classroom, so that gave us plenty of time to think and rethink about the order as I'm talking about my report, which is a great idea for you to do, to think and rethink your report. Talk about it. Talk about it with your friends. Talk about it with other people who are doing the same early bird classroom as you're doing. Talk about it with your parents or your caregivers, right? So they can help you with ordering or giving you some of their thoughts. Maybe they're not as smart as you are in writing. That could be. But that doesn't mean that they don't know about the natural resources in Michigan, or that the state flower was decided before the state bird. They might know things like that. You might be surprised what you could learn from people who you think aren't even as smart as you are. What about that, early birds? That's something to think about and something to work on your 4 days off. This has been day 179 in the Early Bird Classroom. I am Dr. Annette Feravich, and it is April 10th. It's cold. We have snow on the ground there. It is snowy, early birds, in Michigan. Thanks for joining me. Doesn't matter if it's cold, doesn't matter if it's hot. We are bringing you a healthy mind, a healthy body, and a healthier spirit. Thanks a lot.